Hello, everyone. I hope everybody can hear me. It's nice to have you all back. Just to be sure that everyone is on board. I can see we have about 35 persons on this call. It'd be nice to just introduce yourself again in the chat box or just comment how you're feeling about the hackathon. How's it going? Maybe one word that possibly describe your feeling. Are you enthusiastic? Are you possibly overwhelmed? Is everything too fast paced? I don't want to suggest what to you, God, but how's the hackathon been for everyone? Like, what is that one word that comes to your mind when you think of the experience for the past, maybe roughly about going to about 24 hours now? We'd love to read that and to see how the energy has been for everyone before we get started for today's session. Waiting on everyone to comment in the chat box. I can see we have about, I think, 37 people on this call. Yeah, excited to learn Taiwo. Okay, great. That's nice to hear. You're excited to learn. Falami says, feeling ready. All caps. I'm trying to read that in your voice. Yeah. So that's really, really cool. It has been stressful, Michael. Yeah, I'm sorry. It happens. It's a fast-paced activity, but I hope you are good, able to make the best out of it. I would say though that yeah, but what it? I was literally you just took the word out of my mouth. I was about saying that before I saw your test now, but I'm glad it's worth it. Um, I think Favor is on the call. I would, hand off to the POLSSA team just for like 2, 3 minutes to also charge the room and welcome everyone back. Before then, I hand over to the policy shapers team, and I do hope that we all are excited for the keynote session. But before that, like I can see Alabi saying it is calm and challenging. Gift saying it has been brain tasking. Yeah, in a way, I feel good doing all of these things because to a large extent, that's the purpose of the hackathon to make you guys go beyond your boundaries, your limit, and see that this you can achieve much more than you can ever envisage. So I think I'll hand over to, I'm not sure if Favor is here, any of the POLSSA team, just for 2, 3 minutes, to welcome everyone on board, give, charge them before we get started with the main event. I think that you'll be able to meet so many, I think some of the members of the policy shapers team. I can see Benny already, Toby's here. And I can also see that our keynote speaker just joined. So we are all set for this event. So over to you, POLSSA. You can unmute yourself. Yeah.
So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Naija Policy Hack Day 2. Everyone has been introducing themselves again, so I'll introduce myself again. My name is Dami, President for POLSSA, Babcock University. I just want to say welcome to everyone again. Thanks for joining. Thanks for striving to make a change in our society and Nigeria. And also a special thanks once again to the Policy Shapers Organization for making this event possible. Also a very, very special thanks to Mr. Kenny. He's literally like our team lead. He has been the one in charge. So we want to really appreciate Mr. Kenny. And I just want to urge all of us to please make use of this great opportunity to better ourselves, improve ourselves. It's a way of exposing ourselves to certain things. I mean, not everyone knows anything about policy memo, policy writing, policy papers, and stuff like that. So partaking or participating in this event means you have like an edge over some other individuals. So let us make good use of this opportunity given to us. Encourage your team members to join this call. Encourage your team members to join this call. And thank you to everyone. And have a nice time hacking.
Thank you so much, Dami. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with already on the group. And yeah, so yeah, as Dami rightly said, try to enjoin your team members to join this call. It's very, very important. It's from the basis of the hackathon. But without further ado, we'll get started. We have a keynote session today, and I'll speak more about our keynote speaker when it's time for him to come up. His name is Pelumi Olugbenga. I think you guys can see him already on his video. And I know it's about 2 p.m. in Nigeria time. I can understand network issue, but for those of you that can put on your video, that would be great and perfect. at least we get to see all of you face and see how things are going on. But without further ado, I would like to introduce the Policy Shepherds team. I've been speaking about most of what we do and how we go about it. But I want over to our team lead, Ebenezer Wikina, to take the lead of that. I would say the vision, however, we've come for the past 4 years is thanks to Ebenezer pioneering vision. And while you see me moving the wheels, talking to you guys every day, even another team members are the back door, ensuring that we have everything we need to make this a success. Over to you, Ebenezer. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kenny. And thanks to our guest, our keynote speaker, for joining in really early and listening in on the conversation. Thanks to the hackers. Welcome to Naija Policy Hack. It's interesting to hear how you're already feeling. As I could see the comments about being tired and exhaustion and excitement and everything mixed up together. It's kind of like taking me back to the experience that we also had when Kenny, I, Toby, and the rest of the team members, took part in policy hackathons. And, it's we actually knew that we have an organization coming out of that. So my thoughts is and my wish is that there will be so much more coming out of this hackathon. It might not be organizations, it might be ideas, it might be relationships, might be networks that would be useful to you in your career as you grow on further. So this is the Policy Shapers team. I'll give them a chance to just speak maybe for like a couple of seconds. But yeah, over the past 4 years plus, just as Kenny said, we've been working to mainstream young people in public policy in Nigeria, especially around policy ideation and policy advocacy. Many people would know a lot about the work we've done with the Reform IELTS campaign, but we've done quite a lot more as well around, hosting policy hackathons. We've done, as Kenny said, we've done 2 policy hackathons in the past, in 2022 and 2023. And this is the first university edition, something that we've been really thinking and planning about for quite a long time before POLSSA reached out to us, and they've been able to bravely work together with our team to sort of like make this happen. So the dream for us for the next 2 to 3 years is that we'll be able to do a West Africa edition of the Policy Hackathon. And in that hack, we're hoping that it's people like you who represent Nigeria, at that hackathon, and sort of like show what the young people in this country are sort of like made of, right? I mean, we're a Nigerian organization, so somehow we're sort of biased to our Nigerian to our Nigerian teams. But yes, we're 100% happy, and we're seeing that this has also been a chance for the organizing team, that's the POLSSA team, to take up leadership and sort of like guide in this particular process and show, that young people can actually start something and build it and take it through all the way to the end. I can see Toby's here. Toby, do you want to just unmute and say something before I basically wrap up?
Yeah, Toby's a little bit under the weather. I just saw his thanks, but he's listening in here.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else here?
No.
Chimdi hasn't joined yet. Okay, but I mean, in the course of the hackathon, especially when we get to the stage where you'll be sharing your ideas, you get to meet other members of the team. Looking forward to the semifinals. Have fun with the process. Make sure that make it memorable. Make sure that you learn so much from this process. Just as Precious said at the beginning, this is a skill, especially if you hope to work in the policy space as a political science student or someone studying economics. This is a skill, a very useful skill that you use in your career. So build those skills now so that when you get out there in the job markets, you'll be able to use them to have an edge over other people around you. So thank you so much. I won't take so much time because we look forward to hearing our keynotes address. So thank you so much, and over to you, Kenny.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eben, for the fantastic introduction. Yeah, Eben can be humble. If you look at the education part, he's the one that took the part of Harvard Kennedy School and London School of Journalism. So he's really the one steering the team. But without further ado, we move on to our keynote session, which, as I said, we are very excited about, and I'm way happy to introduce him. His name, Pelumi Olugbenga. And rather than reading a biography, I decided to make this a little bit story, like maybe a 2-minute story of how I met Pelumi and how significant it has been. I was an undergrad in Lagos State University. I think it was in my 2nd year, and I saw this national news published that LASU students, I think it was a year or 2 above me, then represent, Nigeria, the United Nations, what have you, and also as a bank fellowship. And I did email him, and I remember when he replied my email, was like, "Oh, hey, bro, I'm still in the US, but let's talk when we are back." And Pelumi came back, I think about a week or two, and like 8 years or 9 years down the line, he has done some of the most transformative things I've seen people do. But most importantly, he has actually raised mentorship. While we are very good friends now, I will never forget his mentorship role in my career trajectory, making me get interested beyond the shores of science. I saw that when most of you are introducing yourself, quite a number of you are studying history and international relations. Pelumi had a bachelor's of science in history and international relations at the Lagos State University before moving on to University of Pittsburgh to do a master in international relations. I think he focused on energy relations. And so his mantra on sustainability, energy management, and you can see he's currently the CEO of Conlix Energy and have moved so many consultancy. But beyond that, he's altruistic. He's the founder of Pelumi Olugbenga Fellowship. And I think the first cohort of fellows were selected last year, 5 smart people. The education will be funded till they graduate from the university up to their postgraduate level. And that level of altruism is where we see that, someone like yourself or myself can aspire to get to. And why is Pelumi, I think, one of the right choice to come here is looking at the team as used as a catalyst for nation building and political transformation. That at every stages of his life, both from undergrad to graduate school to his professional life, he has lived the team, to ensure that, like, irrespective of your circumstances, your age, you can make some of the most radical changes. So I think, like, it is an honor to have him join us today. When I called him that can he come on as a keynote, and he definitely just said yes. The standard procedure would have been to send an official mail or a letter, which I said I would do, but I didn't. And this also speaks to Pelumi, altruistic and mindset to just be there and available for young leaders, as yourself. So I'll hand over to you, Pelumi, and it's so nice to have you on board. I'm sure I don't know if you have the stats, even though there are about 40-something persons here. This session is recorded, so people get to go back to it. We have about 9 universities represented, close to about 100 participants and 18 teams all competing. This is the virtual session of the hackathon. They are currently in the group stages, and they will advance to the semi-final tomorrow, where we'll select the finalists. And the grand finale is, I think, on April 11th at Babcock University's physical. And the likes of Vitra Shaka is one of the people that are going on board, part of the speaker and also part of the judges for the grand finale. So this is the first of its kind, and we're so excited for it. Over to you, Pelumi. I'll stop sharing my screen because I think you have to share it. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kenny, for that wonderful introduction. Kenny is a very good brother of mine. Beyond all the biography, science, PhD, what have you, we share a very strong bond of brotherhood. And I also want to appreciate Ebenezer and the other Policy Shapers team. I deeply appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts on this very important discourse. And I'm also just going to say this. I've been quite aware of what you guys are doing. I'm talking about the organization now for, I think, more than a year now. Kenny has been very passionate about this. And there's one thing about Kenny. If you want to know what he's passionate about, just go and check his LinkedIn bio or like his Instagram bio, something like that is always going to be there. And it's also very interesting to know that, okay, you guys are not just thinking about this from a theoretical standpoint, but also from a problem-solving standpoint, which is very, very important. It's one of the things we are also trying to do at the Pelumi Olugbenga Fellowship, because it's about taking the classroom, what you learn in classes, to the field. Because in the real world, it's not just about theory; it's about like practicality. So yeah, I have a PowerPoint presentation here. Let me get started. So just to give a little bit of context about me, Kenny already did justice to that. I work in the energy space. I had a bachelor's degree from LASU in History and International Studies. I proceeded to the University of Pittsburgh with my master's degree. So all of that kind of like led to my current career trajectory in energy. I'm also like on the side building like a technology company. I also do policy consulting, and through Pelumi Olugbenga Fellowship, I also like work on civic engagement projects. A little bit of fun fact about me, I have a less toxic relationship with perfumes than with Chelsea. So in other words, I love perfumes. I love Chelsea, but Chelsea is not a reliable partner these days. So that's kind of toxic. And we already talked about Pelumi Olugbenga Fellowship, and then Conlix Energies is just a product of what I did when I was in grad school, which is also very important with what you guys are doing right now. I believe that things like this, what you're working on the hackathon project, the competition, what you guys are collaborating on, these are things that can lead to greater things in the future. And not just to jump ahead, I believe many of you are from Babcock. I was watching this Paystack review, this app by Paystack. If you're already aware of the whole IP address thing, IP intellectual property registration thing that has been associated with that. But the story I want to pick from that is that listening to Shola, listening to Ezra, the story of Paystack reminds me of something that can be possible when young people like you come together to try to solve a problem. So yeah, on the right-hand side, just pictures from the last UN General Assembly in New York with some of my favorite people. Masai Ujiri, president of Toronto Raptors, and then my friend, you guys probably know her on Instagram, Ronke, the Oddity. Yeah, so just to give a little bit of context to what Nigeria looks like currently. So we all know this is like trite statistics. Everybody knows that Nigeria has a very youthful population. But the main issue here is that many young people feel excluded from decision making and economic opportunities. I've been following these 30-day rant on Instagram and Twitter. I'm not on TikTok because I feel like I'm not too old for TikTok, but I just don't seem to understand how TikTok works. Maybe that's something Kenny would probably put me through someday. I think he uses TikTok more often than I do, even though he's not an expert there. Yeah, so I've been following the rants, and when I see some of this content, it's just a matter of not just about the economic conundrum Nigeria currently finds itself. It's also about the lack of presence. I mean, young people don't feel seen. They don't feel that okay, their voice matters. And I see those themes in some of those 30-day rant videos I've seen so far. And even though, yeah, the Nigerian government is coming up with this Nigerian Youth Conference through the Ministry of Youth, I still believe that there's still this wider sense of exclusion from the future of the country. So, and all of these things lead to political distrust and economic challenges. But the good thing there is that our energy, our ideas, our passion, so these things would culminate into a better future for our country. But then all of these things are still potential, and potential alone cannot lead to success. We have to like act. So the question now is, how can we young people, how can we lead these transformations? So just to give some examples, I mean, Nigeria is not like new to youth-led movements, like young people inspire change. We've had the likes of Not Too Young to Run. We've had NSAS more recently, NSAS, and just speaking from a global standpoint now, across Africa, there was these Arab Spring that also spilled into the Middle East, which was just young people, primarily young people calling for change. And then we've seen like climate strikes in parts of Europe protesting against some sort of like practices that are not environmentally friendly. So all of these things show that young people can shake the foundations of power. Even coming back to Africa as well, in Rwanda, after the Hutus and the Tutsis, after the Rwandan genocide, some of the people who led the groups that eventually rebuilt Rwanda to an extent. They were young people who just came together and said, okay, yeah, this neighborhood has been ravaged by violence. So how can we rebuild this neighborhood? And more recently, in California last year, when there was this wildfire last year and this year, young people came together to rebuild their communities. And because of our energy, because of our ideas, so one of the things that worries me about not being present on TikTok sometimes is that I think there are some very novel and unique ideas people are discussing there that I'm probably missing out on. But it's just a matter of like, okay, young people, because of our level of exposure, because of our vibrancy, we get to access ideas, and then there's a way we can synergize these ideas together into bringing about something that can be very transformative. And just to give some practical example, I mentioned Paystack earlier, Money Point, Toast and all around there. It was in OAU, Babcock University, when they began to think about Money Point. And then Piggyvest as well, or June, that one started in, and their group, they started in Covenant University, and then further away by Benga, Bola, Yabuyeji, and others. So these are like young people who came together maybe not so young now, but like I mean, as at when they came together, like they were quite young, who kind of thought about a problem. Can we build the PayPal of Africa? Can we build the Stripe for Africa? So they just sat down together, the same way you guys are sitting together now, to think about the problems you are working on, with a view to like profiling solutions to those problems. And then even beyond group companies, like group of people coming together to start a company or an idea, there are also individuals. For instance, Greta Thunberg she's quite popular in the climate space. Maybe not so popular among conservatives or or like fossil fuel industry leaders, but she's quite a popular figure when it comes to like a climate change. Also from LASSO, Ashaka Victory, which Kenny referred to earlier, is a poet, and then through the might of his pen and the vibrancy of his words, is able to drive to inspire change and also drive action. So these are like so whether as an individual or as a group, you always have like role models. You have like templates that you can learn from to be able to like drive the kind of transformation you want to see. But again, real change doesn't happen overnight. So we can have this presentation and then like we feel, okay, we can do something rapidly, but yeah, we can't do it suddenly. We can do it rapidly, but we can't do it suddenly. So it begins with you. It begins with the community we build and the ideas we nurture. So the lesson from this particular slide is that change doesn't ask for permission. It only asks for action. Yeah, so why we matter, youth are not just future leaders. They are today's solution architects, our innovation, our resilience, our digital fluency, they are our superpowers. And that's why it's very interesting when you see political appointees, most of the SA media, go and drag people on Twitter, they are mostly young people, unfortunately, and that's because they believe that we know how to drag each other on social media. Maybe that's not really how we want to use our energy or our ideas, but it's just one of those things they believe we can do very well. So when we lead, we build new economies, we build institutions, and then ideas emerge. So yeah, in terms of acting, okay, how do we act? It's very easy to like talk about all of these things, and then the question is, okay, how? Because I believe that Nigeria is not bereft of analysis of the problems. It's about what are the solutions. So I know that just to like clarify the picture on the right hand side, I'm going to jump to the third bullet point here, which says build capacity and grow with your community. So on the first two pictures you're seeing on your screen, that's myself and Kenny. This was in 2018 in LASSO. I mean, we all look poverty stricken here. Like, I mean, we're struggling. Then, I mean, dependent on bread and beans once in a while. And just to also give some context to Kenny's story, Kenny's currently doing his PhD right now in the US. He's almost done with it by God's grace. But then, when I first met Kenny, for an entire semester, then the allowance he was getting from home was less than 5,000 naira. So how did Kenny survive? The answer was that Kenny began to teach tutorials. So all of these things he's doing now, people would think, okay, I mean, Kenny just woke up one day and then he began to talk about policy shapers. He began to teach how policy making was, about policy memos, about concept notes. Kenny began this thing, maybe not just as an expression of his talent, but also as a means to survive. Because, I mean, getting something from home that probably can't even take you to your hostel, he had to think outside of the box. He maintained a very strong CGPA, 4.9 most of the time. And then he began to teach people in like primary schools, secondary schools to gain money to survive. And on the other side, there's a lot of dimension today. It was the BGS of last week. He broke that record, more than 30-year-old record in 2021, around that time. And then Dimeji's dad is a mechanic, and then his mom is a pepper grinder. So as at that time as well, Dimeji was teaching tutorials. But now, Dimeji currently works with the Bank of England in London. And mind you, this is not like 20 years ago. This was like between 2021 and last year. That was like 3 years. In 3 years, he went to the University College London, UCL. He went to Cambridge University, and right now he's working with the Bank of England. So Kenny, you already know Kenny. So this was just a few years later, like, okay, we met in the US. I've not seen Dimeji since then, so I don't have his picture. Since after we stopped eating bread and beans, we stopped surviving on bread and beans and Gary, all those kind of things. So this was us in 2022 in the US. And then the second picture, myself and Taiwo, that's Kenny's a twin brother. So this is what happens again. Don't just, when these connections you are making now, Don't just think, okay, this person is my classmate. We only share bread and beans, so we only go and buy gari or eat spaghetti. I mean, you are building your community. You are building people that you guys can look back in a few years and say that, oh, wow, in those days we used to do this and used to do that. And also, maybe there's someone on this call, maybe Sapa has really sapped you, and you feel like, okay, you're just struggling to get through undergrad. I can tell you that, okay, hang in there. Your life can change in a year, in 2 years, and 3 years, if you stay committed to it. So I'm not here to just give you some motivational like gibberish or whatever. I'm just telling you that it's very practical. When you stay focused, when you know what you're doing, and then you build your own community, because at the end of the day, you cannot do it alone. You would need people that, okay, they will support you. I think a few days ago, I was telling Kenny about this fundraising thing my company is trying to do. He was like, why are you not telling me about this? I'm like, oh, yeah, because what I'm doing right now, I'm not even certain about its success, and I don't like bringing people into uncertainty. But they was like, yeah, we had to talk about it. This uncertainty that builds a bond. So yeah, just to go back to the bullet points. So get involved. I mean, join and build civic platforms and policy think tanks like Policy Hack, like you're already doing now. So start a project. But before you start a project, right, or you build anything, build capacity. There's something in my company I call think crazy, act informed. So think crazy is that you look at, I'm trying to think about something now, history, right? History, since many people on this call, they claim study history. So think about history now. And most of Nigeria's history are focused on the politics. Okay, Babangida, Abacha, Babangida did Buhari dirty. Buhari refused to go to Babangida's book launch some months ago, and then Abiola they didn't give Nwozu the right honor at the National Assembly. That's the way we think about Nigeria's history, right? That's the kind of narrative we see on the news. But we think about it, there is this deficiency, like this gap in the way we talk about history in Nigeria. We don't talk about economic history. For instance, now, in the 90s, in the 80s, in the 70s, there were so many economic lessons that we can learn now based on, okay, for instance, whatever is happening in Nigeria right now is not new. I can tell you that if we go back to Nigeria's economic history, we've been through this under Babangida, we've been through these, even when the likes of Shagari and Co were there, although these things were in different forms, but the underlying hardship, these things have happened before. So, but now we are not talking about the economic history, the trajectory of Nigeria's economics. We are just focused on the politics, the actors, not the actions, not the decisions that led us here. So that's a gap. So if you can come together, I'm not giving you an idea. I'm just using this as an example. So if you guys can come together and think about these gaps in maybe history, maybe it's in finance, and just start building something. Start maybe you become the apropos doctor of Nigeria's economic history. Just you shoot videos and educate people about how like economic policies over the years have shaped Nigeria, have led Nigeria to where it is now, and then what people can do to prevent a reoccurrence, or how they can better prepare themselves to navigate the current economic conundrum. So, and also, yeah, start a project, a movement, a business. Just start something based on your talent and your expertise. Just start doing something. But again, don't just start because you want to start. Make sure you build capacity. Once again, like you want to stay informed, you want to read, you want to learn, you want to engage constructively, you want to become critical thinkers and innovators. You know, one of the things I train my workers on is that if you want to innovate, it's not innovation is it's a very simple term, but it's also very complex when it comes to implementing it. Because think about it this way now. If you're talking about a product, now all Nigerian, like literally many companies now, I don't say Nigerian companies, many Nigerian companies now, they're doing like fintech. Everybody wants to do fintech. Now, if you want to innovate in that fintech space, right? You probably would think about it as, okay, how is this thing being done? What are still the existing gaps in the market? And then are there lessons we can learn from maybe China or America or India? And then how do these things apply in the Nigerian local context? So innovation is just a matter of like engaging deeply with a problem and then thinking about ways you can creatively solve them, learning from success stories or like successful programs, and then applying it to your own local context, because most of the time, whatever works in America or China might not apply to Nigeria, I remember when Kenya and I went last week, we used to have this hour bike where you would rent bicycles and people would rent scooters. Like, I mean, if you do it the way they do it in America, you probably will lose all your bike within a month or something. So what works there would not automatically work. You need to like adjust it. So I think becoming critical thinkers would really help you to understand how problems exist and then how you can solve those problems. Yeah, inspire others. Be the example you once needed, because there are people on this call now who are listening to me who probably next year, in a couple of years, are going to be on this side of this screen. They are going to be presenting. So you want to be that kind of person that also who can inspire other people, the younger generation, those who are coming after you. Maybe it's in your department, it's in your school, your community, even from your family. You want to be that person, that role model. No pressure, but like just someone that people can look up to, and then just draw lessons from what you do. So yeah, the nation we dream of depends on what we do today. So our parents' generation, our grandparents' generation, I feel like there was a day I was watching this Babasuwe video, and then they were asking him, okay, how much is dollar now? I was like, so it's about 100 naira. So most of the problems you have now, it's something people have lamented about, and it's very funny when in the early 2000s, people were saying Nigeria was very, very bad. Nigeria was terrible. Nigeria was this. Nigeria was that. So now we are saying the same thing, maybe in even more depressing tones. So the question now will be, what kind of country do we want to hand over to our children? I can tell you there's no day I don't think about relocating back to Nigeria. Ken is very aware of this. So even though you decide to jackpot from maybe Nigeria to America or China or Canada, even to Mars, you will still be thinking about them, because this literally is the country where we were born. It's where our dreams were shaped. So whatever dream you now travel to go and fulfill somewhere else, remember that that dream was nurtured in Nigeria, and then your umbilical cord is kind of like still tied to that country. So you can't run away from Nigeria, whether we like it or not. Yeah, so our time starts now. What legacy do you want to leave for the next generation? I already talked about that. And there's one of my favorite quotes from Barack Obama is change will not come if we wait for some other people or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. So when you criticize people on social media, you call out the president, the governor, oh, these independents wrote this and bad, this and bad. I mean, I'm not saying all of we can solve all these things on our own. Just know that, okay, at some point, it builds on you, maybe even through political participation or through sensitizing people not to sell their votes or to engage responsibly. There's a way those responsibilities eventually fall back to us as a people. Yeah, so just some other quotes from from some of my favorite people in history. The future rewards those who press on. I don't have time to feel sorry for myself. I don't have time to complain. I'm going to press on. So yeah, we can talk about the current situation of things in Nigeria, but it's now boils down to us to go back to our groups, to our community, and then begin to do community organizing. Just continue to engage, and I think engagement sometimes can be multifaceted in the sense that you can engage to build a group that solves a problem, but you can also engage to build a group that understands a problem. So there's this person on Twitter. Her name is there's this Money Africa. I can't remember the founder and CEO. She was talking about a point where she was at a World Bank event, and they were talking about, okay, the current issues in Nigeria, that these devaluing the naira, removing subsidy. On paper, I know I have some economics on this call. On paper, those are the right policies, at least at the level of the Bretton Woods institutions. Those are the right policies. But then to the average Nigerian on the streets, we can't tell them now that they were meant to devalue the naira. You might hear bang on your head. So, but then, I mean, how do we strike a balance, understanding that, okay, for instance, subsidy or what have you can bankrupt the country, and maybe not having to peg or defend the naira with a very skeletal foreign exchange base is going to inhibit investments from coming into the country, and also ensuring that, okay, leaders take responsibility to cut the cost of governance. So you can't say that, oh, people should not exchange dollar at a very low rate, and then you are buying like all these like interesting lavish stuff. So that there's just that disconnect. But regardless, the youth of today are the leaders of tomorrow. Yeah, so thank you so much for listening. I deeply appreciate you all for your time. But if you don't remember anything from this presentation, remember to build capacity and take action. Yeah, thanks so much. If you guys have any question, I'm like willing to answer you on this call, or you can just probably add me on LinkedIn, or my email address is pelumiolugbenga@gmail.com. So either ways work for me. But if you have any question, I'll be happy to answer them on this call. Yeah, thank you so much, and God bless you all.
Thank you so very much, Pelumi, for the fantastic presentation, and I'm particularly surprised that you made it a lot of personal stories with connecting. I would open it up for questions, comments, answers, like, what have you on maybe on the chat, but feel free to unmute yourself too if you do have anything to say. But I think that was a very fantastic presentation. As Riley said, that these are things that build capacity, that actually make us who we are, what we like to do, and where we want to get to. But I think one thing that did resonate with me the most is the fact that when we think about the future, we think about it in 10, 20 years time. And, based on the example Pelumi cited, it's in a year, it's in 2 years, it's in 3 years. And Policy Shaper is a perfect example of that. We're about 5-year-old, and I would say that like how far we've come sometimes really amazes me, and we hope to do much more. But just to tell you that the future is not 2050, it's not 2060, it's literally 2026. It's literally now, and Pelumi did justice to all of that. Thank you so much for your time, Pelumi. Thank you for the presentation. And I'm sure every one of us from Policy Shaper and POLSSA are immensely grateful for you. Before we maybe move to some housekeeping rules, announcements, etc., if any of you would like to unmute yourself, have questions, have comments, clarification about the presentation, about the hackathon, that would be great. So I'll just give like a minute for that, and yeah. Okay, HP, I don't know who HP is, sorry, but you can feel free to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Okay, good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good
Can you hear me?
afternoon. Yeah, you can go ahead, Alaba, before HP goes. Yeah, you can go ahead. Yeah.
I have a question, sir, for Mr. Olugbenga.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
All right, thank you very much, sir, for the insightful speech. Personally, you've been, a source of inspiration for us in the Department of History and International Studies. I just want to ask, you mentioned something about rapid action, act rapidly and not suddenly. I think I caught that, and I really don't understand. I would like if you can, share like more light on that, sir.
Yeah, so thanks so much for that question. Act rapidly and not suddenly is essentially saying that you should build knowledge, because at times when people come for programs like this, they just want to like, okay, the next thing is they want to take action, right? That's sudden. It's okay to take actions fast, but take actions based on knowledge, based on capacity. So think about it this way now. I believe you are in the Department of History. I think your face looks familiar to an extent. So think about it this way now. I'm trying to identify a problem in the department as like when I was there. I think one of the problems we faced was the issue of waste baskets. So as simple as that is now, if you just go outside and then just buy waste baskets and then just put it everywhere, student affairs to come and ask you questions. Like, okay, who put this here? What happened? So that was a sudden reaction based on what you learned here. But a more practical, a more step-by-step would be, okay, so number one, why are there no waste baskets here? Are there maybe letters you need to write in the university? So there are ways that some of these things are well regulated. Kenny can attest to that. So you can't just drop something somewhere. So do you want to partner with maybe the department the department association or so is, and then just finding ways to maybe brand the basket? So now you saw a problem, right? Acting suddenly would have meant, or you just go to Yanoba, buy basket and drop them in the department. That might not work, because they might say, okay, you should take it up because maybe the university has a policy. I'm not saying that's the case, but I'm just giving an example. Maybe the university has a policy that, okay, before you can put a basket here, it has to go through some process of approvals. But acting rapidly would mean that, okay, you saw the problem, you quickly began to think about it, and then you now build knowledge in terms of getting awareness of how these things work. Okay, for instance, now building knowledge would mean, okay, are you just going to buy a basket from Yanaba? Or if you wait and go to Yaba, there are more innovative waste baskets that probably has recycling capacity or capability, or there might even be some organizations online that would happily donate baskets to you, what you're trying to do. So rapidly would mean building the knowledge, understanding, okay, is this the best product you can get? Is Yanaba the best market you can get it from? Or maybe you can get it cheaper at Vespa or My True, or maybe they're even better eco-friendly products you can get from Yaba, and also just trying to understand how the process works within your own community, and if there are ways you can partner. Maybe, for instance, someone else is already thinking about this idea, they have the money but they don't have the capacity to think about how to get eco-friendly products. So rapidly is just moving fast, but moving fast based on knowledge and capacity. Why like acting suddenly, or just moving suddenly is just, okay, I saw this and I want to do it. At the end of the day, most times you just run into issues, avoidable issues. So I don't know if that answers the question. Yeah, I can see your comment, all right. Chibudum, do you have can you unmute?
Oh yeah, I think I was trying to call on the other person, Shibudum.
Right. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Good day, sir. Thank you very much for this speech you've given us, this presentation. I am Chibudum Ironuru. I'm an economic student from University of Nigeria. So my question here is this. For many people, many of us that might have this desire to help this country, to be in organizations such as this, like policy shapers, all the rest. But then we also see that as we are leaving university, the country seems to be so bad that if your entire time, every resource you have, every little time you have wants to be dedicated to working so you can, try and survive. Is it really possible for one to still, while doing all that, be able to join or even start up some organization, a not-for-profit organization, by the way, when you know that it's as if you can't survive, really. You are still trying to get yourself to earn your daily bread. Can one really be able to, what do you call it, combine those two things, earning money and, doing things important country in the long run? Question.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So I can respond to that while Ngozi comes on board next. So I think I understand where you're coming from, and I believe I've also been in that kind of situation before. And one thing I'm going to say is this: when you think about the future, right? It's not far away, but if you think about it in totality, you are going to be overwhelmed. Versus now, maybe you are still in less than 3rd level, 4th level, and then you're already thinking about, how will I NYC? How am I going to get posted to a very good state? How am I going to do a master's degree? How am I going to get a good job? How am I going to start a family? When you think about all these things, at the end of the day, you're just going to feel discouraged, you're going to feel disillusioned, and then you're just going to give up. That's just reality. That's how life works. But if you begin to think about it as, okay, you're thinking about the bigger picture, right? And I'm going to use Tunde Onakoya as an example. There was a story he told us when we were at Onga like last year. But let me just use as an example. So now, if you think about the future, okay, this is where you want to be. You want to, for instance, now maybe get an MBA and probably work for McKinsey, BCG, or maybe work for Anderson, KPMG, partner, maybe become the next Professor Yedele, or a partner at PwC that's currently leading the tax reforms committee. So you're thinking you have that big picture in mind, right? But the little steps, you need to also focus on that. Thinking about it this way, that, okay, I need to pass my exams. I need to write a very good project, because one of the things I've noticed in the course of reviewing graduate applications for people is that, okay, they kind of like treat their project as just let me just do this and just pass. And sometimes your project, which is what I always tell some of our fellows, is that can even help you generate, let's say, 3 policy papers that you can now use to apply for a master's degree program or a PhD program. Now, think about it now. The goal is for you to be a partner at a consulting firm or at an auditing firm or at an accounting firm. But the project you are doing right now in your final year is already contributing to that. journey. So when you're about to think about life as a step-by-step process that leads to the bigger picture, it gets easier in the sense that you focus on the things you can control, and then while you keep your eyes on the goal. And I know that in Nigeria, there are so many externalities. For instance, I feel heartbroken when I hear that to board a bus from like First Gate to Lasso Gate now is like about 200 naira. I think somebody was telling me the other day when I was in Lasso, which again was not even was less than 10 years ago. We used to board it like for 20 naira at some point. So it's now like that's 100% increase in the whole thing. So more than 100% increase in the whole thing. So it's very, very crazy. So, but I think it gets better when you number one focus on what you can control, your grades, your this organization you are currently a part of. So if you are now thinking about starting your own organization, just to also specifically address your question, maybe you want to do something, for instance, or you are at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, one of the most prestigious universities in Nigeria's history. You might probably think about, there's an issue of financial literacy. Maybe you are in Nsukka. I'm trying to remember. There's this line by Chimamanda in Popular Discourse, because I believe a part of that book was set in Nsukka, right? And then you see what people do in the market, and you realize that maybe small MSME traders, that is traders that sell your ugu, that sell your pepper, your tomatoes, that sell even your products, they are not that financially literate. And in a country where we are currently battling with inflation, many of those traders run the risk of running out of business, right? So what you can do is, okay, I want to take action. But then again, always remember this. Don't just take action because you want to take action. Make sure you build capacity. You've really thought about an idea. You've thought about innovative ways to implement that idea. So you can now say, okay, just want to do a free leaflet or a free template that you can use to train or to teach all these petty traders. Okay, for instance, your revenue is not the same as your profit, and again, in an inflation economy, you buy now, you save later. So these are little things that people like Money Africa started from in terms of just building financial literacy among a broader, more urban middle class community, but also in your community, in your rural area, wherever you stay. I can tell you that there are ways you can apply your economics degree, your economics knowledge to solving that problem. And also, I'm going to say this, right? When you think about what's going on in Nigeria now, we can think about it as, okay, Nigeria don't finish, Nigeria don't jaga finish, right? But all these things are also opportunities from the context of solving problems. So using Nsukka as an example again, I believe that you can start something small, even among like traders. There's this startup called Subi. You can Google it, the story behind Subi. This Nigerian American guy went to Harvard, and then he started with someone he met on Twitter, who is in Nigeria, by the way. So just to strike that balance. You don't have to be in Harvard to start it. So he thought about it as, okay, many traders in Nigeria, they don't have access to upfront payments when they supply food or goods to people. And then he started a company. And I think the company, as the last time I checked, raised more than $4 million. But it was something that started from his own experience. So within your community now, look at something you can change. It doesn't have to be very grand. It doesn't have to be very, very big. It might even be from the person you buy Aku, or you buy Opa, or you buy whatever or your favorite food is from them. You can begin to really understand how you can solve problems from that standpoint. But just know that, okay, it's a step-by-step thing. Focus on the step-by-step thing you can control with the future in mind, because you begin to think about everything, it's going to be an issue. Now, let me use Tunde Onokoya to just wrap up my response to this. So Tunde was saying that when he started chess in slums, right, it was just a matter for him to learn chess, and then number two, to be able to lift children from poverty, or from just that kind of environment, that environment of violence in Oshodi or in the slum, using chess, right? So he never thought about, okay, he's going to be speaking at the UN in 2025. He never thought about, okay, he's going to be featured on BBC, on CNN, or what have you. He started very small, right? And at the end of the day, all of us won't end up on CNN. We won't end up on BBC. I'm just use it as an example, right? So you can start very small. But if Tunde had thought about, I want to go to the UN, I want to go to the World Bank, I want to be on CNN from the beginning, he probably wouldn't have been able to start chess and stuff. But it started very small. step by step, but with the future in mind. And at the end of the day, was able to connect that. So let us always start like step by step. No matter how small we can start, even if it's just within our family, you are teaching them financial literacy. If they give you allowance, don't go and use it to buy data all at once. Do it step by step. So just start something very small, but with the future in mind. So that way you don't get to overwhelm yourself in the short term, and also you keep your sight on the future. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Pelumi. I'm particularly proud that there are so many questions and answers. And in the interest of time, you can follow Pelumi on LinkedIn at Pelumi Olugbenga, and also his email is pelumiolugbenga@gmail.com. He's much more than happy. And on behalf of everyone, we are so happy to have you, and thanks so much for your insights. And
yeah, we can just do one more. I think Ngozi, I don't want to just go start like that. I think you raised an answer. I can just quickly answer a question and then
okay, great. Yeah, no problem.
There was one Ngozi that raised up hand.
So Ngozi, I'm sorry, I didn't see that actually, but are you there, Ngozi?
Good afternoon.
Great, we can hear you now.
Yes, I am. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Okay. So I don't know if this question is like relating to policy hackathon, but I have this question, like I've been having this question in mind. So my name is Okori Ngozi, and I'm a student of international law and diplomacy, and I'm in Babcock. Over the years, I'm in 300 level, by the way. We've been having classes and all, but I don't know, like concerning my course, law and diplomacy, I hardly see people make use of their BSc, like their degree, actual degree. Some people eventually venture into like side hustles and do other things that are not relating to their course. But me, like for me, I want to use my degree. And I don't know if it's still possible in this country, because when you just see what is happening, the whole corruption, the whole everything, the whole instability, insecurity, everything in this country, it just is very, very degrading. And if you go to my school library, like literally, if you go to my school library, a lot of projects that everybody has written, even from 1990 when I was not even born, like their project work are still on the shelf, like literally, does it even move out of the room? Does it even go places? Like me writing projects next year, is it even worth it? Like the effort, the energy, the mind, the 7 a.m., the everything, is it worth it? Now people now sit up there. Sometimes I watch TikTok videos and I see women, like young women, making their money, driving cars and using their degree. Is it even worth it, like in our own generation? Do we have to like dive into other things that are not, because me, I want to use my own degree. So I don't know if it's still possible. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. I think it's a question many people in Nigerian universities, they wrestle with these days. And number one, I would say you're already technically using your degree, even though you don't have it yet. You might not see it that way, but what you're doing right now, it's a way to use your degree. Now, let me now go back to the project thing. I feel like policy shapers, Kenny, I think we might need to do a whole workshop on projects, because projects, for instance, now, right, in the 90s, there was no Google Scholar. There was no ResearchGate. There was really nothing that could help you globalize, or at least create a platform for you to make your project more visible. And well, and I know when it comes to projects in Nigeria, right, people, maybe even in this era of ChatGPT, it's even going to be worse. Like people just, during my time, most people just like go to Google Scholar, copy 10 journals, use this one as introduction, the other journals, first chapter 1, the other journals, chapter 3, just say I merge everything together. So, and at the end of the day, what that does is that it affects what they can use that project for, right? So if you're applying to grad school, and let's assume, international law and diplomacy, you want to apply to the Harvard Law School. So last year, my mentor, Professor Fagbon, was at the Harvard Law School, and then I was there, and I was talking to Professor at Harvard, right? And we're talking about research projects. And one of the things I noticed was that many of the projects that they used to make headway, not from Harvard, though, like to get into Harvard, right? There are projects they wrote when they were in undergrad in Ethiopia, in Nigeria, and different countries. So again, right, you can be an outlier in this case. Make sure that your project is well done. It's well done to an extent that, okay, even if you want to apply for an internship at the UN, you can literally you can literally use that project as a template, as okay, this is something that from my sweat, from my blood, hypothetically, I've worked too hard on this, and anywhere in the world I send this project, it's going to speak about my excellence and my creativity. And one of the things I feel like one of the things that kind of affect projects in Nigeria is that they end up on the shelves because number one, there's nowhere they would have ended up. And the reason is being that we write projects in such a way that we are just telling a story. That's just it. Okay. Oh, diplomacy, international and diplomacy, Umaru Diko, diplomatic bag. We just write stories, and then stories. I don't know. The stories end up on the bookshelves. We don't. Most times we don't put in actionable recommendations. For instance, now maybe I'm trying to think about a more recent event that you could probably relate to. For instance, now think about this whole Russia-Ukraine war. Think about what happened in the Oval Office between Trump and Zelensky. So now, diplomacy, what they went there for was diplomacy. They wanted to talk about the minerals deal. They wanted to talk about, okay, how do we sign a peace agreement? How do we end the war in Ukraine, right? So by the end of the day, diplomacy failed. That was a failure of diplomacy, quote unquote, even though, yeah, the leaders involved sometimes, I don't want to say anything, I'm in America. So, but like, it was a failure of diplomacy, right? So, and if you're going to write a project now, it's not just a matter of like, maybe writing about, JD Vance said we can't litigate this one here, and then at the end of the day, Zelensky got emotional, they all got riled up, he went on CNN. That's narration. But you can go a step further and say, okay, how can leaders, when they go into such meetings, how can they better prepare in high-stake situations, particularly knowing fully well that the person you're going there to talk to is a very radical person? Are there better ways to approach it? Are there ways, for instance, they could have had some conversations before they came to the media? Maybe anybody that wanted to get emotional would have gotten emotional on the backstage. So these are things you could have thought about. Okay, so whoever is reading that thing now, you know that, okay, if even beyond me going on CNN or going on BBC or what have you to read about what happened, I'm also getting insights in terms of solutions from your project. So that way, if you apply to grad school, and a professor at maybe Harvard, Indiana University, University of Pittsburgh, whatever, maybe even Lagos Business School is reading that paper, they are not just reading what they already know. Everybody knows that, okay, Trump and Zelensky, they fought. Oh, yeah, we all know that already. So what could they have done to avert that? Could they have done some meetings before that meeting in terms of the two leaders so that all of them would for them change down for each other backstage before then come the front of the world, come they change down for everybody? So that's another way to think about it. You don't just think about narration, think about it from a problem-solving standpoint, which is something I wish I knew when I was in undergrad. Honestly, that okay, project is not just a matter of like just writing stories. Everybody knows this is already Nigeria is this, Nigeria is that. We all know. So what are the solutions? Are there things you're proposing that okay, even if somebody is this person is very smart. So that's what you think about your project. So now talking about your career, right? I studied international relations, right? I ended up not using that degree, not because I couldn't have, but because I mean I'm a very spiritual person, so it's just like a different lead in terms of okay where God wanted me to like head towards. But when we think about all this international relations, diplomacy, this and that, right? We think about it from a finality standpoint. Everybody wants to work at the UN. Everybody wants to work at the UN Secretariat. That's a destination, but we don't focus on the process, right? You might eventually work at the UN, but there are like certain things you can do. For instance, now maybe there's UN Women. I think this is where I might work with Kenny. Maybe, I mean, if you want to, there are some courses online you can even take. If you Google UN Women now or UN this, I have some links I share with my fellows. So you can take some of those courses online about UN, diplomacy, international law, this kind of things, right? And within Nigeria, there are like UN volunteer opportunities, there are UN this, and there are UN internship opportunities as well, although they're very competitive. But there are things that you can apply for in such a way that you're going to get a certificate for that participation. So you are gradually building capacity. So if you're looking at it, okay, I want to work, I want to use my certificate to work, to advise Samina Mohammed. That's a finality, that's a destination thing, but it's the process that matters. And I'm not saying this to say, okay, Nigeria is perfect, you can do anything you want to achieve in Nigeria. No, I sometimes go outside to touch grass to see, okay, I mean, this is the reality. But we just need to like take it step by step, right? So don't just think about, oh, corruption, this, and that. That's a finality mindset. Think about it as a process. Okay, you need to do this. You're in school now, get a good grade. Your project, make sure it's very world class. Even if you send to anybody in the world, they will know that you can. They will see the thinker, the critical thinker in you. And then number three, within your community, like I mean, or even within Nigeria, there are several things you can do. Maybe take classes, online, and then intern, volunteer. So just get started. You never can tell how all of these things will turn out. So don't just don't write it. Just wrap it up. Don't write your story from a finality standpoint. Focus on the process. Just focus on the step by steps. At the end of the day, you never can tell how life would shape up, because 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Kenya and I, none of us really knew how this would turn out, but we started taking step by step. So we were doing SDGs, we were doing Excel minds, we were doing different volunteer things, we were writing papers. We didn't know how we were eventually going to end up, but we started knew that, okay, all this step by step by step by step by step would all compound from an economic standpoint into something greater, into something very good. So just do the same thing. Take little steps. At the end of the day, everything will just come together in ways that you never could have imagined. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pelumi, for the exhaustive response. We are 9 minutes ahead of time, and I'm so glad there were so many questions and answers. I would give a few announcements and also then hand it over to one of our policy shapers team, his name is Shimdi. I would say a little bit about him when I'm handing over. But one last thing I would like to say to you, Ngozi, is that I think Pelumi also tried to say that it's okay to feel frustrated in a system where you cannot just study your course and be able to apply for a job and work in that. It's okay sometimes not to be you don't want to be an innovator, you just want to practice. However, the system you are in, unfortunately, does not allow such. And recognizing that matters. And the process also is key. So for me, while I try my best to do a lot of SDG stuff, I know I love microbiology. I want to be a scientist. And what I did was just to keep writing review papers, a lot in science, stuff that it was tough, and the opportunities came. So just know that, yes, you need to work harder, you need to have it different, and Pelumi encapsulated that strongly. But I do share your sentiment. And that's why you're also, you're a policy shaper, so, I can see passion in your voice. I hope you can translate that passion into policy. And in a way, I truly hope that your policy paper gets selected, because it'd be nice to have you against, see just passion exude in the semi-finale and hopefully in the finale. Without much ado, I will share the final announcements, which I like to think this session I'm about sharing now is a bit the most important parts of policy hackathon for those that are concerned about winning. And you will see the reason why I say that in a few seconds. So yeah, it's a moment of learning, and learning. But again, it's also a competition. And just in less than an hour at 4 p.m., we have the mentor office hour. And you are going to have experts, policy experts, some policy shapers team members, some external persons, be able to go through what you've maybe written, go through your idea. You have 10 minutes, and you must be strategic about what is your greatest headache, like what are you struggling to understand as you prepare to submit your policy paper for tomorrow. So I will enjoy you all to join, and it is important that just one person should not join. So a mentor cannot do twice for a team. So one person just joined, this team, and they went to the room with the mentor, and the mentor say a lot of another person joined from the same team. So coordinate with your team members, know which time you want to join. The room will be open by 4 p.m. but will be closed by 5. Once you join to the main room, I should be at the administrative end with the POLSSA team. We're just going to assign you to the sub room. So there'll be different Zoom rooms where mentors will be waiting to listen to you, hear your proposals, and give some suggestions. This was one of our game changers, I think, in our Stanford hackathon. Thankfully, we attended the mentors office, and we have an idea of how they are judging really and what it's all about. So I think you should attend this. Like it is meant to be optional, but then again, why are you doing this if you don't want to hear like the most important thing that could possibly change your petition around? That being said, I will hand over to Shimdi. Shimdi is one of our major leading policy shapers, one of the founding team. He was a national security fellow, I think, at Seton University, and he have renowned expertise in policy, making policy research, to give us a closing remark as we round up. Over to you, Shimdi.
Thank you so much, Kenny. Thank you. Please, you guys pardon me. By tomorrow during the judging section, I'll be on camera. I don't know. I'm in Nigeria. Nepal, there's no Nepal. I need to switch on my laptop. But yes, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, first Kenny and POLSSA and Babcock University for organizing this hackathon. This for us at Policy Shapers is like a shift in our program, in what we envisioned when we started this 5 years ago. Seeing that we have arrived here 5 years later, it's like something that we are all proud of. We are thankful to each and every one of you that have contributed to his success. Thank you so much, bros. I think our people will say Bros Pelumi. Thank you so much. Well done. Your keynote was really great. I love how you broke it down to the nitty-gritties. And you can see the effect of abroad or US on Bros Pelumi. One of the things you do well once you go out there is breaking down the big stuff into the little things, into the nitty-gritties, into how you can convert, this knowledge. The girl that asked about, she has seen many projects from 30 years ago, 20 years ago. There's universities, there are places that are so constructed in a way that you begin to think about the nitty-gritties and how to apply it. If you finish your political science degree and you go out there, while I was there in the US, I found as Kehinde told you guys, I was selected as one of the best students to participate in the National Security Fellowship that was to advise the US Department of Defense, the US Department of State, the White House, and the US National Security Council. Just in my first 2 years of that staying there. And what was the difference? It's just that, look, it's almost the same thing you have been doing in Nigeria, but now you have a place that, if you really did your research while you are working, if you participated in this kind of hacking, in our time, there was no hacking. But if you participated in things that made you start thinking about, you see Kenny is doing his PhD in the sciences, but he's still in the UN. I think next week or so, he'll be going to the UN for an ECOSOC meeting. And he has been doing that for years since he came to the UN. So you see, every little investment in your journey matters. And policy shapers and policy hacking is no different. And one of the things we are trying to do is that through this hacking, you learn the nitty-gritties of how to come out of those Russia-Ukraine war, of theories of international relations, and just talk about Nigeria have an insecurity problem. How do you write something that makes sense, that gives the current national security advisor, forgotten his name, that gives him one idea that can change how they tackle Boko Haram in Nigeria? The last hacking he had, the people who came up top 3, their policies, we facilitated and granted them the fulcrum to take their policy to the National Assembly. I don't know, Kenny, you remember? They had to present their on budget and on student loan and something. They took it to the extent of, we offered them that chance of presenting this thing. We had an offer from National Assembly to cover advice on things. So we took the people who got, I think, first or second position, who were available. Some of them were in school. So the people that were available, we took them along. So these are the kind of things that you gain from this engagement. So as you go forward, I know you have already crossed the one of the hacking. I want you to have that in mind, that you're not in a small program. I want you to be invested in it. Look at the teammates that you have. 5 years ago, Kenny, Iben, Comfort, and Toby and Terry. We are 5 of us in a competition at MIT or so, I think, or Stanford. Then after that, because of how we work together, we decided to push this thing and see that our nationals and Africans have access to this kind of opportunity. So thank you again, Kenny, for how far you brought this competition, and the student body at POLSSA, Babcock, and every other student from LASU, Unilag, Ajayi, Crowder, and every other place you guys came from. I want you to know that this is a great opportunity, and you are the one who we have to make of the opportunity what you want. So yes, thank you so much, and I wish you guys the best. We'll see you tomorrow at the judging panel.
Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you, Shimtin, for such fantastic closing. See you all in like an hour for the policy hackathon, and best of luck. See you in an hour for the mentorship. Best of luck with you, and take care. Bye bye. See you.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone.